Hello Cam Heights families. Today we're going to read another chapter in the tale of Despereaux. If you didn't hear the beginning of the book, go back to the last video and watch the first chapter. We're going to be talking about the book as we go, and this is the tale of Despereaux, one of my favorite adventure stories that I've read to students in the past. The best way to listen to this story is to simply lie back, get comfortable, close your eyes, and use your imagination to paint the pictures in your mind of what you hear. I hope you enjoy the tale of Despereaux. In the first chapter, we met Despereaux and how he was born and came into this world. And we also met his mother and his father and some of his older siblings. We started to get an idea of some of their personality traits. An author always develops good characters in a story, and we can learn about the characters through their actions and words. In the first chapter, the mother, for example, was always using the word disappointment. And then she also talked about wanting to only worry about her makeup instead of, her children. And so that tells us a little bit about maybe she's a little bit vain or a little bit selfish. What do you think? Also, his older siblings teased Despereaux, and they noticed that his eyes were open when they shouldn't be. Let's find out what happens next. Chapter 2, Such a Disappointment. Despereaux Tilling lived, but his existence was cause for much speculation in the mouse community. "He's the smallest mouse I've ever seen," said his Aunt Florence. "It's ridiculous. No mouse has ever been this small, not even a Tilling." She looked at Despereaux through narrowed eyes as if she expected him to disappear entirely. "No mouse," she said again, "ever." Despereaux, his tail wrapped around his feet, stared back at her. "Those are some big ears he's got too," observed his Uncle Alfred. "They look more like donkey ears if you ask me." "They are obscenely large ears," said Aunt Florence. Despereaux wiggled his ears. His Aunt Florence gasped. "They say he was born with his eyes open," whispered Uncle Alfred. Despereaux stared hard at his uncle. "Impossible," said Aunt Florence. "No mouse, no matter how small or obscenely large-eared, is ever born with his eyes open. It simply isn't done." "His pa," Lester says he's not well," said Uncle Alfred. Despereaux sneezed. He said nothing in defense of himself. How could he? Everything his aunt and uncle said was true. He was ridiculously small. His ears were obscenely large. He had been born with his eyes open. And he was sickly. He coughed and sneezed so often that he carried a handkerchief in one paw at all times. He ran temperatures. He fainted at loud noises. Most alarming of all, he showed no interest in the things a mouse should show interest in. He did not think constantly of food. He was not intent on tracking down every crumb. While his larger, older siblings ate, Despereaux stood with his head cocked to one side, holding very still. "Do you hear that sweet, sweet sound?" he said. "I hear the sound of cake crumbs falling out of people's mouths and hitting the floor," said his brother Tulise. "That's what I hear." "No," said Despereaux, "it's something else. It sounds like, honey." "You might have big ears," said Tulise, "but they're not attached right to your brain. You don't hear honey, you smell honey. When there's honey to smell, which there isn't." "Son," barked Despereaux's father, "snap to it. Get your head out of the clouds and hunt for crumbs." "Please," said his mother, "look for crumbs. Eat them to make your mama happy. You're such a skinny mouse. You are a disappointment to your mama." "Sorry," said Despereaux. He lowered his head and sniffed the castle floor. But reader, he was not smelling. He was listening with his big ears to the sweet sound that no other mouse seemed to hear. There's not many people that are supporting Despereaux, even though he is different than all the other mouse. It's kind of sad, isn't it? I think he needs an ally. Let's find out what happens next. See you tomorrow.